Yes, I love this land. It takes my breath away.
Welcome to Texas 10. I almost said welcome to Texas, and I was like, where? It's Texas 10. We have a wonderful podcast that is about Texas. I'm Melissa.
And I'm sculpting Steve.
He has not 1 ounce of...
You've never seen my Play-Dohs.
Well, no, I have, but we do have a grandson. But the reason he says that is we're here today with Doreen Ravenscroft, and she is with Cultural Arts of Waco, and it has some huge impact. It's had a huge impact on our city and our cultural art scene.
It sure has. I mean, I think as regular viewers probably know, Doreen, we first came to Waco in the late 70s, early 80s to attend Baylor University.
Right.
And went away and came back a long time later.
And years ago.
It had changed so much. And your organization and the things that you do sort of, I think, contributed to that. So why don't you tell us a little bit, first of all, about Cultural Arts of Waco?
Well, Cultural Arts of Waco was founded in 2004, and partly, because our schools were having to cut the arts, and I really felt that it was really important that we could reach elementary and early childhood as well as the upper grades of school, and that what we needed to do was to start if we could, a free arts festival. So with Henry Wright and Sam Torres and Michael Bettersworth, we started Waco Cultural Arts Fest, which celebrated its 20th year last year.
Yay! And that's held. Is that held along the river? Is that right? Is it or where is it held?
Initially, it was held in Heritage Square, and then we needed to expand so much, but also the chamber had also built their new chamber building.
Right.
And so we moved to Indian Spring Park and basically doubled in size.
Well, it's wonderful. And I love that mission. I'm an educator, and I fervently believe that children need and young people need a well-rounded education. And I think we really miss the mark when we take the arts out of the schools. So Thank you. Another thing that Steve and I noticed when we're on the road, we have gone to every county in Texas, and there is public art all over Texas. And one of the things, we always start at the courthouse. And at the courthouse and in the squares, there's often war memorials and sculptures depicting different things in the community. So we've seen a lot.
I love that. It tells you about the history of the town and sort of, and it also tells you about what they value.
Right.
And so it gives you a real sense of the community that you're in. Like beforehand, I was saying, if you're at the county seat of Erath County, Stephenville, they've got a dairy cow on their courthouse lawn. I think I think it's Alice, or where's the big steer? George West, West County. There's a huge steer in a glass cage.
They really love theirs because it is preserved well.
And so the memorials really, really tell a great story. And we have one of the greatest here.
So,
thanks.
Yes, thanks to Doreen and the people that work with her. There's a phenomenal story of a member of our community, Doris Miller, and he served during World War II. And his story is one of the most heroic stories I've ever heard. And sadly, Doris was he was at Pearl Harbor. And the story goes, he was a cook on the boat. And when Pearl Harbor was bombed, he got up on the ship. His station where he was supposed to go had been destroyed. And so he went on deck, which you did if you could serve somewhere else. And they put him up. He was a big, strong guy. And they needed him to help move one of the officers who had been injured.
It was the ship's captain. I believe. Is that right?
Yeah, the ship's captain.
So Were you, when you got involved, this all leads to the Doris Miller
Right.
Memorial. So when you got involved
Let's
with that
getting there.
project, how aware of the story were you?
Well, actually, first I should tell you a little how it started.
Okay.
We began in 2005 with the Waco National Sculpture Competition, which actually became just an exhibition, and we ran it until about 2007. And then we went on to bring in Patrick Dougherty and the stick sculptures. And then it was through Professor Powell at Baylor, as after we had worked with Clifton Robinson and Betsy Robinson on the Chisholm Trail sculptures, he said, if you are doing historical sculptures, the next one your organization should consider is Doris Miller.
All right.
I had never heard of Doris Miller, Pearl Harbor, of course, but the actual story of Doris Miller, it then became something to research, to listen to Jerry Powell. He is a wonderful historian, let alone was a law professor at Baylor, knew much about the Navy and the history. And so initially learning the story about Doris from him, being just a local boy, did pretty great at A.J. Moore as a football player, but left school early and joined the Navy.
And we should say, we have not said, Doris was an African-American young man.
Yes, he was.
So it was really, what he did was very historic. And no African-American had been honored in the way that Doris Miller was finally honored. But it took some time to get that honor.
So when we were off camera, you mentioned something about the family. Were you able to meet Doris's family in this process?
Yes, absolutely. We first met Henrietta Bledsoe Miller, and then her sister Flozetta Miller, who were...
Now, who is Henrietta? Is that...
So Henrietta and Flozetta, their fathers are brothers of Doris Miller.
Okay.
So Doris Miller was their uncle.
Okay.
And it was as...
Are they in Waco or?
At that time, they were in Midland and in Dallas.
Okay.
Now that I think they're both in Fort Worth.
Okay. Well, we have the memorial on our screen, and it is it's iconic. It is beautiful. It's such a mixture of modern and traditional. So tell us a little bit about the design and how it was chosen and what the family wanted to portray with this memorial.
Well, one of the first things was meeting the family, but also finding a site that would be suitable for something as important as this. And so we had help from Bill Falco, who helped us find like 5 sites in Waco. We went to the city of Waco. At the time, Malcolm Duncan and Larry Groth were in the leadership of the community. And it was like, okay, you have to get the, we want the pulse of the community. We want to know if this is something that we would want. So we went to Rotary clubs. We went to parks and recreation, to community groups in East Waco, just basically all over Waco, just to present the concept of a Doris Miller Memorial.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you at this point, in doing that, how aware was the Waco population at this point of Doris's story and his heroics?
Some were and some weren't.
Which proves the need for a memorial.
Yes. And, once we had presented to the city that the most beautiful piece of land was the 2.2 acres on the Brazos River. And it was, by that time, you have to have the site before you can engage a sculptor.
Sure.
So that was the first process in
And was
getting
that
a
city
site.
land, or was
It is still city land,
Okay.
and it is still city land.
So do you lease it, or what's?
They designated it
Okay.
for the Doris Miller Memorial.
That's the purpose.
So
of
that's
it
the
now.
word, designated.
Okay.
So it was designated as for the Doris Miller Memorial.
And it's like you said, it's a beautiful site. One,
Yeah.
because it's on the river, it's treed nicely, very lush grass around
Yes,
it, that
yes.
sort of thing. A couple other thoughts, though, I had was, one, it's near the water.
Yes.
Right?
I think that was the most exciting thing about it, that it was a totally unique site when it came to creating the RFP, which is a description of the site, a description of what we're looking for, which would be a memorial to honor Doris Miller Memorial, to honor Doris Miller, who was a Navy seaman. There was several paragraphs on that. And then there was also the importance of that it was in a public park. And so once that went out in the Sculpture magazine, it went national, and we had 25 entries.
Oh, wow.
The other thing that I would note about it is on the east side of the river
Yes.
in East Waco, which
Yes.
is a traditional African-American community. And was that important in the process?
Yes, it was important because further up in East Waco was one of the homes of Doris Miller's parents. So at one time they had lived in East Waco, but before they had lived in the land that is now Lake Waco.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
But somewhat of a homecoming.
Yes. Well, you talked about how it was important to the family to have a more traditional sculpture.
Yes.
And I don't, I see the traditional part, but what I love is the image that he is on a ship. So talk a little bit about the process of designing and working with the family.
The designing really, once we had got the 25, we then reviewed them, and we had asked each sculptor for a statement of why, because we wanted to know why in their heart, was it just another job, or was it something that they were going to be really passionate about? Because this was a historical person. And from that, we culled that down to 15. And then we worked even further with a team of 20 people within the community using a score system. So that it was so much easier, because if you hated it, you could say so. And you didn't have
I don't
to
hate it. It's just a
Yeah,
one.
it's just a one, yeah. So it was so much. It was such a great way to do that. And then when it came to the final 5, they had to bring a maquette. And a maquette is a small 3D sculptural image of what they planned to build. And they would have an hour's presentation in front of, I think at that point it was a 28 piece jury, and it included it included a lot of our city engineers and parks, so that they could see where we were going with this project. At that point, we knew what the family would like to see. It was, how did the sculptors see this project? And some of them saw it between heavy steel woven walls, as he was a cook, and the whole of the African American seamen were based at the above the engineering side, but basically on the lower decks of the ship.
Right, they didn't have the suites.
No, they did not have the suites, and And then there were ones which were more sculptural, like reference the picking up of the captain. But a lot of them were the image of full dress when you come into port. But when it came to it, our sculptor, he brought in a watercolor. a watercolor
I was thinking
painting.
of like a diorama.
Right.
but-
He did bring in a diorama,
Okay.
but he brought in a watercolor. And Stan Carroll, who was the architect presenting from Oklahoma City, then pulled it up on a big screen. And by the way, these 5 people met in the law school at Baylor in Professor Powell's training. And I can tell you,
Intimidating. Not
coming
too
to Waco
intimidating.
and being that imposing situation, put them on a spot.
Cross-examine them.
It almost was, but it was absolutely fascinating, and it was an amazing process. But with Stan, he explained Doris Miller as a 9-foot bronze, but behind him was this steel structure, and the water, and a pond, and he said the structure is every sailor makes a ship. That was the most resounding thing to hear, because it was that Doris was part of a team. A navy doesn't run on one person. No ship runs on one person. It runs on everybody working together. And then the pool was the reflecting pool for the whole of the crew that had been lost on the Liscombe Bay.
Well, that's maybe a good time to return to the
story.
story a little bit.
Yes.
So, Melissa had mentioned that he helped get the captain to where they could render him medical attention.
He shot down a Japanese.
Ultimately unsuccessful for the captain. And then he started manning a gun, which was not his training. Now, there is some historical dispute about how effective he was in terms of...
Yes, there is. And there are several books, including one from Michael Parrish from Baylor, that have done further research, deep research, including testing metal and etc. But I think that the most important thing, when it finally came out in a Cleveland newspaper of a young African American manning a gun, doing it because he needed to defend his country, doing it. I mean, really, he could have been court-martialed, because an African American at that time was not allowed to have a gun in the Navy and man a gun. But we actually got some of the reports historical reports from the Navy, reference Pearl Harbor and the West Virginia. And after the captain was shot, mortally wounded, other crew members, obviously senior members, take over. And at one point there is an instruction for anyone that's around to man the guns, including Miller.
Right. It was a pretty dire situation.
It was a very dire situation. And basically, I mean, the term all hands on deck is exactly what was needed at that point.
And
he did survive.
Right. He definitely survived Pearl
Yes.
Harbor. And one of the interesting things about it was, I don't think our only touchstone to this is probably 9/11, but nobody ever seriously thought that our nation was at an existential risk from 9/11. When that happened, you had people that wanted to close down the west coast of the United States. Our Navy was really impacted by the surprise attack. And there was a lot of doubt into sort of what is next, right? I mean, we'd been watching what Europe had gone through with Hitler and whatnot. Now we're smack in the middle of it. And essentially, are we going to survive in the form that we exist? And we were searching for heroes at that point because it was horrific, and all of them were heroes on that day.
Absolutely.
The result was catastrophic from a military perspective.
Yes.
And he was literally one of the first American heroes of World War II.
Yes, he was. And, not only was there the manning of the gun, but it was when they were all told to abandon ship and they're in oily, burning water, and he is pulling injured seamen and assisting in the saving of other injured seamen. So, yes, I think we also, one of the things that the whole team, and including the family, wanted to do was also make sure that Memorial was just not a standing figure, that there was a story there. But it could also be a place of play, a place of thought, and a place of reflection. And it's a place of play because of the Bledsoe Miller Recreation Center, which is going to be turned into a team center. Now we have walkers and runners just going through casually. And then we see the families that are going through the bronze reliefs, which tell the story, which actually starts with his father and his parents being sharecroppers. And that story is there. So that then you see a childhood, and then you go on to Pearl Harbor.
Well, we do walk. We live downtown, so we walk past it a great deal. And the other reason I love it is somewhat interactive.
Yes.
And you see adults reading everything. You see children, and they can run up as if they're on the boat right up to Doris Miller's statue.
Yes.
It is just beautiful. And I love, so go on with the story. So he was in another part of the war on a different ship.
So it's interesting to me because, today, like the person I think of as a celebrity, a war hero, is Pat Tillman, who died in action, but he was an NFL superstar, star. And he's so unique in our generation because he was, I don't want to say, I don't know much about Pat's backstory, but I don't want to say he was a person of privilege growing up, but he played in the NFL when he decided to serve, right?
Yes.
And so he gave up a multi-million-dollar salary, and that's so rare, right? Well, Doris was, I believe, after Pearl Harbor, they used him to sell bonds for a little while.
Yes, they did. Yes, they did. He toured the nation to help purchase war bonds.
Right.
Yes.
And so, most people that achieve celebrity, if they, even those served, it was a little bit different in World War II, but there were many people in the military who were celebrities, and their job in the military was to be a celebrity and sell war bonds, and movie stars that were Colonel this or whatever. They weren't, but Doris sold war bonds for a little bit, and then he went back to action.
Yes.
So why don't you?
Yes, he went back to action. He was posted to the Liscum Bay, which was in the Pacific. That was in the Gilbert Islands, and it was a Japanese attack off the Gilbert Islands that sank the Liscum Bay, and I believe over 700 sailors passed at that time, and that included Doris Miller.
And that is. We did something on Audie Murphy, who's another Texan that was a great war hero, and he survived the war.
Yes.
But it is unusual for somebody that had been recognized for valor as much as he was to get thrown back in and then unfortunately lose his life doing that.
Which brings us back to the sculpture. So tell us kind of the final design that you chose and why it was chosen.
The final design was obviously Stan Carroll and how many sailors are in a ship, make a ship.
And if you say that again.
How many sailors make a ship.
Right. And it's that's a shout out to that. It takes a crew of thousands
yes,
to
yes,
run what if I know they're just finishing up with the restoration of the USS Texas, which is going to be moved in Galveston and will be open. It may be open for limited tours now, but very soon it will be open to the public all the time. If you have never toured U.S. I think that's a battleship, and I'm not sure exactly what Doris was on in terms of what the classification is. But if you've never toured an immense U.S. Navy ship, you should do it.
It's a city. Well, so in this sculpture, it's as if he is standing on deck, coming to shore. And so for me, it's as if he's coming home.
Yes.
And I think that's powerful because he didn't come home. And I think that's powerful for his family to have this reminder.
I think the sculptor was chosen, and both Stan and Eddie Dixon, actually from Lubbock, Texas, had to. And Eddie is an African American sculptor. His work is in the Smithsonian, and it's in Colin Powell's collection and many other collections. And he is a realistic sculptor. So that team they created to present the final design. And Eddie, it's a 9.5. It's a 9-foot sculpture in bronze. And so initially we saw a small model, which is again the maquette, which we approved. And then once it was beginning to get to the halfway stage, we then contacted Flozetta Miller, who lived in Midland, and we said, hey, we want to pick you up. We want to take you to see the clay and how it's going. Right. And so that she could see how the modeling was going, if it was really looking like Doris. And one of those wonderful days was, because it took a couple of years to do that, was that it was like one day that's Uncle Doris, you know. Oh. And so that meant a lot to all of us, but also to Eddie, that he had, caught from a young man to a man. Once you go to war, your features change, and you change totally. You truly, truly grow up. And so that was really wonderful. And then the bronze arrived earlier than the memorial because was built. And that simply was because the river authorities were putting up the floodplain, which is, a conversation that gets really at hand today. And so we had to move the whole site of the sculpture further back and also raise it 4 feet, which meant a whole another year of redesign.
Oh, wow. That's you're so close.
That's right. From the bronze.
Yeah, the bronze did not have to be redesigned. That was, already started, and that was what we wanted. So as far as Stan was concerned, it was him having to redesign the sculpture slightly. We still had the steel wall, but one other wall was taken, which was in the front of it, which actually kind of showed that the bow of the ship was taken away, so that it became a much more open piece, and we loved it even more. But the whole concept of the reflection pool and the steel hull, which is it's 145 feet long, it's 16 feet high at its highest point, and it's an algorithm.
And it's an algorithm.
It's an
145
algorithm.
and 16. My Miss Trigg, my geometry teacher, is very upset with me right now.
Well, the first two parts are only the length and the height at the very highest point. The algorithm is actually the structural pieces of the steel, in that the very first steel, it has And this is all in Stan and his creativity created an algorithm that could be sequentially increased so that the same pattern goes all the way through. And the whole thing gets larger and larger and larger until you get to the point. But even though he couldn't make as many plates as to the number of crew that were on a ship, the whole concept of the different plates was many sailors make a ship.
That's what I was going to ask you that. So I'm glad you answered that. Well, it is a beautiful, beautiful memorial and a beautiful sculpture. And hearing the process.
Right. So how long did the process take from start to unveiling where the city fathers cut the ribbon and all that?
10 years.
Over 10 years.
Over 10 years, yes.
And so, as Melissa said, we've been all across Texas. We've seen many, many memorials and replicas of memorials, like the Iwo statue in South Texas. I think about the veteran statue at Hopkins County in Sulphur Springs is beautiful.
Oh, it is beautiful.
And this isn't on the county courthouse. This is bigger, and it is on the water, which I think. And we're biased.
I was going to say we're a little biased, but it is really one of my favorites. One, because
I'm going to say it's our favorite.
Yeah. Well, it just ties in this remarkable story, and I think it has a message for children as they're growing that, every person matters.
Right.
Yeah.
And at that time, Dorie might not have been valued, and to bring that up, and I'm proud of our city for recognizing his importance and his worth. I just wish, obviously that he had really come home.
Yes.
But he is home in Waco, and what a tremendous story. And tied to that is the importance of the arts. It is so important because the arts carry on our history in such a powerful visual way.
Yes.
And so I think it's important to support our organizations like Creative Arts of Waco.
But one of the things that struck me when we were talking about it is it all starts with a diorama. Like you're back in...
It does. It does.
And so...
I mean, people don't think that, the brand new car started out small and then it goes to a clay model for them to make, the mold for all the metal or the poly, whatever they're using now.
Right, but when you're exposing kids to the arts, and like you said, the Bledsoe Miller, it used to be a Y, correct? Or
the Bledsoe Miller was a Y, and it's going to become the Bledsoe Miller STEAM Center for Excellence. Yes.
STEAM being
science, technology, engineering,
art, and math.
Right,
Yeah.
and so
we added in that A a while back.
Right, and so I do think that is so appropriate to marry all of those things together.
And you said it beautifully. I mean, here's this artist, and architects are artists. Engineers have a lot of art. And so to understand that all of that goes together. So kids, you can't just draw. You also have to learn your math. And,
yes, you do.
That it is really just...
So you'll know your algorithms, right?
Yes, that's exactly right.
You are lovely, and what a beautiful
I have one more
story.
question, though, right? Where did you get this great Texas accent?
It comes from across the pond.
A bigger pond than the reflection pool at Doris Miller.
So you're obviously English, right?
Yes, I was born a few miles from Chester, which is on the in the north of England, just north of Wales.
Okay.
So how in the world did you get to Texas?
Oh, dear. My husband was a food chemist for M&M Mars, and
I didn't think I could love you anymore. But
it's his...
I eat M&Ms just like...
it's his favorite candy.
Yes. So there is nothing better in the world than a frozen M&M. That's
I've never had the
Oh,
frozen.
okay. Well, I don't want to devalue your husband's work because he was a food chemist, but they're made even better if you put them in the freezer or the refrigerator for a little bit.
Okay,
So, yes,
okay,
try that.
okay.
Yes.
Well, we are really glad that you guys came across the pond to make candy, and you have made such an impact on our community.
Thank you.
And it's just been such a pleasure to meet you.
It's such a great story, and you're such a great storyteller, both telling us and in heading up what is the story in Waco.
And if I could say one more thing.
Sure.
Okay, thank you to everybody, whether they gave $1 or they gave multi-thousands to the Doris Miller Memorial. You have no idea how important it is to everybody, not only Waco, Texas. It's a national story, but it's also an international story. So thank you for everyone who has supported it, cares for it, and loves it.
That's awesome. And if you visit Waco, that is #1 on your. It's so easy to find.
It's so easy to find.
It's right across.
You can't miss it, really.
The suspension bridge is iconic in Waco, and on one side it's the Chisholm Trail, which you also had a hand in, and then on the other side you go and you can see the Doris Memorial, and it is stunning. And
right.
So
Yeah,
come to Waco.
Come to Waco, especially.
Come to Waco.
Learn about the story a little bit. You can learn about it at the memorial itself. It's a great lesson for kids, and
support the arts.
Right.
Find in your city, I mean, you can support Waco, and Doreen can tell us how you can do that or where you can find them in just a minute, but also in your own communities. It's important to support the arts, and it's important to give our young people that opportunity to experience the arts, and it's important for people of all ages. And like we said, Waco
I'm
has
past
changed.
dioramas, but
Waco has changed, and it is remarkable. Public art's one of our favorite things. We seek it out when we go to towns, and Waco is on the map for public art.
Thanks, Dorie.
So, thank you. So, do you have any handles, any shout outs, the websites? Where can people go to find more?
culturalartsofwaco.org.
All right. Okay.
And be sure to follow us on Texas10. We have a website, texas10.com, and you can find us on YouTube, Texas10, or wherever you get your podcasts. And we also have Instagram handle, Texas10 Podcast, and Facebook, Texas10.
We would love you to do all the social media things like subscribe, comment, share, but most of all, tell a friend about our Texas stories and see if they're interested too.
And come to Waco and see this phenomenal memorial.
Bye.
Thank you.
About you, and I love this land. Oh, it takes my breath away. From Palo Duro to the Gulf Coast Plain, from the heart of the hill country to the piney wood shade. I love this land. It takes my breath away.